Yo, yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome to an episode, the Ivan Herrera Show, another episode of the Ivan Herrera Show. I am happy to be back. We were out for the count as a family. We were dealing with sicknesses, and wife was traveling. Work has been crazy for me, but we are back, and I am happy to say that we're all doing better. And I'm wearing my newly acquired Philadelphia Eagles championship shirt for those of you that are watching the live stream. But we're going to go over a lot of information. The NFL offseason hasn't even officially started. The offseason begins March 12th is when the official new year begins. But we're to see a lot of moves happening. And with that, we're going to get into it right away because I want to make sure I cover as much ground as possible. And the first one I got to go over, and I'm super excited about this one, is going to be our very own Philadelphia Eagle news. We have Saquon Barkley, who just re-upped, signed a 2-year extension worth $41.2 million, making him the highest paid running back in not only Philadelphia Eagles history, but NFL history. And he's now getting paid $20 million a year. I mean, well deserved too. I mean, I just got done watching, if you guys haven't already watched this NFL mic'd up from the Super Bowl. I mean, for those of us that are Eagles fans, we are getting everything. I mean, all things Philadelphia Eagles right now we're consuming at a high rate. You know, I'm still watching highlights from that game as well, and even the Kendrick Lamar performance. But anyways, it's so great to see the kind of culture that Saquon Barkley created there in Philadelphia, his true leadership, that presence he was in that locker room. And I just loved how over and over again he always told the team during the Super Bowl to not get too high on themselves. He said right here, constantly always telling them, hey, stay level 0-0. But anyways, you can tell Philadelphia here is taking care of their superstar coming off of a fantastic year. And it says here too that Barkley's deal has the ability to earn an additional $15 million in incentives. And this deal includes $36 million guaranteed at signing. I mean, just a phenomenal contract. Barkley, the offensive player of the year in 2024, behind a great offensive line, and of course, leading to the ultimate award in the Super Bowl championship game being the one thing that he gets to not only play in, but also become the winner in. And I know that there was so much controversy about whether or not he should go for the all-time rushing record, but you know what? He broke the all-time rushing record, not only with the season, but with the postseason included. So, I mean, a great year, well-deserved contract. Really happy that he's locked in. And as we continue, we also heard that the Philadelphia Eagles re-signed linebacker Zach Bond. Zach Bond signed a 3-year, $51 million extension. And it is crazy how much Philadelphia is here to make sure that they are taking care of their superstars. And Zach Bond, someone that came out of essentially nowhere, the year prior signed a 1-year contract worth up to $3.5 million. And really, it was only for him to be a rotational piece as an edge rusher for us and maybe even a special teams contributor. But he did more than that in 2024. He recorded 151 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 11 tackles for loss, five forced fumbles, making it first among all linebackers. And you know what? Let me just also break down further how good this guy was. He was first among all linebackers in PFF's coverage grade at 91.7. And he was also second among all linebackers in his overall PFF grade, which was at 90.1. So great contract. Obviously, one of the most important pieces that Philadelphia had to secure. There's still some tough decisions that they're going to have to make. And we'll actually round that out real quick with some 2 rapid-fire moves that happened as well, just to highlight a few things here from Philadelphia. James Bradberry, we saw this coming. I mean, Philadelphia fans were already calling for this guy to get cut, but his official has been released. And then the other one that isn't too surprising, 34-year-old cornerback Darius Slay has also been released, and there's been talks about how this is more so of a move to open up more of the cap, and he has shared even that he is open to come back to Philadelphia. He also has shared interest to wanting to go back to Detroit, where he spent 7 seasons before being traded to the Philadelphia Eagles 5 years ago. Now, the other big news that we saw also in the NFL was we saw the Commanders make a move to get Deebo Samuel. And Deebo Samuel going to the Commanders is a fantastic move for Washington because you're now giving your star franchise, your future rather your franchise quarterback, another weapon to really make a huge dent in the NFC. And Jaden Daniels, it gets now a second wide receiver to go along with All-Pro receiver Terry McLaurin. And I'm beyond happy for what this will do for Jaden Daniels as well as his fantasy prospects. Washington only had to give up a 5th round pick in exchange to get Deebo. And it's actually pretty interesting, too, how effective this will be for the Commanders because there's this great stat I'm going to pull up here that I got from RotoViz. Let me see if I have it readily available. If not, I can just go over it real quick. I do have it here. Okay, cool. So yeah, let me show you guys this quick stat here. So per RotoViz, the game splits that you're seeing right now on the screen, this actually comes from 6 games that Deebo had this past season in 9 games where he had Brandon Ayuk and where he did not have Brandon Ayuk in the lineup. And what's interesting here is that in 6 games when Brandon Ayuk was in the lineup for the 49ers, you can see Deebo averaged 11.77 points in PPR formats compared to 9.4 when he did not have him in the lineup. So all this to say is that Deebo does benefit with having another receiver there that can feast in the offense. Of course, I think that this bodes more beneficial for Jaden Daniels as well as his prospects. It's going to be really interesting to see where Deebo will fall as soon as mock drafts start getting up and running. But I believe overall, great move for Jaden Daniels as well as his fantasy value in not only redraft, but definitely in dynasty formats as well, being that he's going to be even costing much more of a hefty price, especially if you are in a startup league or if you're just looking to make a run at him in an existing dynasty league. Now, another thing I wanted to go over was the Seahawks making some really big moves as well. They have let go wide receiver veteran Tyler Lockett. And with that, we've also heard big news about DK Metcalf looking for a trade. And this is a big deal because DK Metcalf is looking for a new contract, and he's looking for something along the $30 million price range, which, I mean, of course, when you look at his production, you could make a good argument for that case, considering that in 6 seasons, he has never had under 900 receiving yards. And he has been a 100-plus target wide receiver in each season that he has played. Now, since entering the league, he is actually second among all tight end. Rather, he ranks 5th in receiving touchdowns. He's 12th in receiving yards and 16th in receptions. And you know what? He was a fantastic second-round pick in 2019 for the Seahawks. And even last season, what seemed to be a very down year for him, he still was first among all wide receivers in deep targets. He was 5th in win rate versus man coverage. And from week 1 to week 7, he had a fantastic start to the year. He was a wide receiver 11, averaging 15 PPR points per game. But we saw him take a huge dip towards the second half of the season after he missed some games and had the bye week as well in the middle of all that. But he actually was the wide receiver 36, averaging only 6.8 points from week 9 all the way to the end of the year. And of course, like I said, all that can be attributed to the injuries and of course the bye week as well. But DK really saw a big dip in his production last season. And with all of this, I mean, it makes you wonder, okay, where is he going to go? I mean, the 2 teams that for me that came to mind first was the Buffalo Bills, only because you're looking to always add some kind of weapon for Josh Allen, even though I know a lot of their needs come from the defensive side. So if they as in Buffalo wanted to address those needs in the draft and make a run for Metcalf, I can see this actually working out. The other team that also came up to mind first was the Green Bay Packers. The Packers have a young trio of wide receivers. Christian Watson, unfortunately, is someone that continues to battle injuries. And, I mean, if you were to move maybe Romeo Doubs and maybe combine that with a pick, does that become enough to get DK Metcalf over to the Packers to be a weapon for Jordan Love? Now, the other fantasy impact of it is going to be that of JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigma for the Seahawks. I mean, if and when they do end up trading DK Metcalf, JSN is someone that is going to be going through the moon for me as far as players that I'm going to want to be targeting next season, considering that we saw him really find his groove in his second season there in Seattle. So a situation I'm going to be monitoring very closely. And I think that it's going to get really interesting too to see where he ends up landing. And then, of course, once that does happen, I'll be sure to give you a reaction video and give you some analysis on what that'll do for his fantasy impact in 2025. Now, onto some other news as well. Nick Bosa, and it's crazy. I didn't even realize how long he was there with the Chargers, but the the 9-time veteran, rather, I should say, Nick Bosa, he has been released by the Chargers. And this move is actually a huge one for them because they get to save $25.5 million with cutting Nick Bosa. Now, the former third overall pick was a 5-time Pro Bowler during his time there in Los Angeles, recorded 72 sacks. Not only does that make him second all-time in the Chargers franchise history, but also 10th among all players since entering the league. Now, the one thing that has been a little bit of a downfall has been his availability because in 3 seasons, he's only played 28 games. So there's been a lot of ties as to where he might go. And the fun scenario has always been attached to whether or not he will go to San Francisco to pair up with his brother. So Joey Bosa, unfortunately, has been released I think I said Nick Bosa, so I'm going to say Joey Bosa has been released by the Chargers and may potentially be partnered up with his brother, Nick Bosa, up in San Francisco. Now, 2 last things I'm going to go over real quick. It's going to be Evan Ingram. He's been released by the Jaguars. And this one, for me, isn't surprising. You have a new regime there in Jacksonville. They're looking to, just clean house, save some money, clean slate, build around Trevor Lawrence. And the move of releasing Evan Ingram does not come to a surprise, considering that he battled some injuries last year. And even though he was a Pro Bowler 2 years ago in 2023, where he caught 114 receptions, had 963 yards and 4 touchdowns, it makes so much sense that Jacksonville will make this move, considering that Jacksonville is going to save $15.48 million in the cap by releasing Ingram. And I know that Ingram had a quiet year last year, but there was a pretty interesting stat I found. From week 6 through week 14, he was the tight end 11, averaging 11 points in PPR formats. And the reason why I mentioned all that is because even though he's been released, I can see him actually going to a team and making an impact somewhere else. So stay very close as to where he goes, because I think that he will be effective, considering that he still has a few more years, in my opinion, of effective years ahead of him. Now, his teammate, Christian Kirk, was also traded, is now going to, I guess you can say his time in Jacksonville also came to a close today. After speculation about whether or not he's going to be released, the Texans are sending a 2026 7th-round pick to trade for the speedy veteran receiver. And again, this goes back to Jacksonville being under a new regime, new GM. You just got rid of Doug Peterson. And, you're looking to save some money and retool. And you have obviously a very promising piece there with Brian Thomas Jr. So Christian Kirk being moved on from is not a surprise whatsoever for me. So something very interesting happening there in Jacksonville. It'll be really intriguing to see how they retool there. And the main thing, too, I wanted to just share before is that there are so many moves that are going to still happen. I know we got Devontae Adams was released. You saw Max Crosby sign that big contract. And we can't forget, this is, I think, the one thing I want everyone to pay attention to is the way that Chicago is handling Caleb Williams. And I love what they're doing here because they are essentially making sure that their guy is ready. And this came from Adam Schefter a few days ago, but the Bears agreed to trade a 2025 6th-round pick for Ramsey Jackson, and then sent a 2026 4th-round pick to get the Chiefs' Joe Thuney, which is amazing because now you're bolstering up that offensive line to protect Caleb Williams. And I'm sure that Justin Fields is wondering somewhere, what the heck were all these moves when I was there? But Caleb Williams getting the offensive line retooled, getting an upgrade there to hopefully improve that scenario, I think is only going to make him much better this upcoming year. And you know what? Don't be surprised because of how deep this running back draft class is going to be if they make a move and add another weapon there as well to go along with Roma Dunze, to go along there, obviously, with them still having Cole Kmet there. And I know that there's so many question marks as far as what else is going to happen within that wide receiver room. but you have DJ Moore still there. I mean, there's been talks about him being probably moved on from, but you have Romadunze, you have an offensive line that's gotten better, and of course you expect that with Ben Johnson being there, that this offense will be also upgraded. So a lot of good things there happening in Chicago. And of course, the draft is just less than 50 days away. So there's so much to really look forward to. And that's basically what I wanted to have this video be about. Go over a few of the things that are brand new as far as news. And then just really preface that we're going to be going into more of a dynasty format as far as going over rookie drafts. We'll go over the combine and where that puts certain rookies, especially once the draft comes. It's going to be so much easier to then start to piece everything together as far as where you should be drafting certain guys, depending on their situations. But with that, guys, if you found value, thank you so much for, number one, watching all the way through. Hit the like button, subscribe, and also be sure to, as always, make sure that you are commenting your reactions to the video. And then just let me know, too, as well, what are some moves that you think are the most intriguing as we get ready for the offseason to kick off here in the NFL pretty soon. But thank you for watching. I appreciate you guys watching all the way through. And if you're watching right now, if you're listening to the audio podcast, be sure to subscribe as well as leave a review as well. Any and all engagements, whether it's a like or a comment, help the channel, help us push out this content as well. So with that, guys, thank you for tuning in. Take care. God bless. Peace.